This show is sponsored by Mighty Capital, the go-to venture capital firm for product-first companies like Airbnb and Amplitude. Learn why they are dubbed the best value for the dollar invested at mighty.capital. I'm SC Moadi, founder and chair of Products That Count, a 501c3 nonprofit engaging over 500,000 product managers. Our mission is simple: help you build great products through groundbreaking research, prestigious awards, and top-notch programming like this award-winning Top 1% podcast. Whether you're aiming to boost your career or turn your product team into a competitive advantage, this is your gateway. Visit productsthatcount.org and begin your product leadership journey. This particular series is hosted by one of the first chief product officers in the world, Lenny, and each episode is a masterclass in product leadership. Renee, over to you.
Well, hello. I have with me today Tom Wang of Turo. It's so great to have you here, Tom. I've been really looking forward to this conversation. First of all, I want to start by saying congratulations on being a finalist for the top CPO in the world. How does it feel?
I was surprised and honored and love this organization and excited about what you're doing to raise the profile of product management.
Oh, thank you for that. And it's well deserved. So, anyways, what I would have all sorts of great fun questions we're going to dive in today. But before we do that, in 60 seconds or less, can you describe your company? Who are your customers? And specifically the role you have at Turo?
Sure. Uh, Turo is a car rental marketplace. So our mission is to put 1.5 and ever growing billion cars, which are on the planet, to better use. And we do that through our car rental marketplace. It's a two-sided marketplace. On one side, we have our entrepreneurial hosts who create a business with an underutilized asset, a car. Cars are often idle in the world, are used a small percentage of the time. So ripe for a marketplace, and our entrepreneurial hosts create a business taking advantage of this underutilized asset and providing transportation. And that's one side of the marketplace. Of course, we have the guest side of the marketplace, the people who are renting the cars. And what they get is an unbeatable selection of makes and models. The car rental industry has trained people to just take what they give in traditional rental car, but Turo has unbeatable makes and models, the newest at any price point. You can have a distinguished, selection of makes and models, and we also have a tremendous amount of convenient locations near you or where you need to be, whether that be the airport or a train station or even delivered to your house. And we're currently in the U.S., in Canada, in France, and Australia and the UK.
That's amazing. It almost sounds like, okay, you're probably going to get mad at me for saying this, but are you the Airbnb of the car rental space?
I won't get mad. We love Airbnb. It's a great, obviously, it's a tremendous, inspirational company. So we are different, though. We are, charting our own path, and I think we take inspiration where we can get it. And especially on the supply side, though, it's unique. There's lots of dimensions about the asset being a car or a vehicle that's a lot different from a home. Most importantly, they move, and that has opportunities and challenges associated with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, congratulations on the success that you've had to date. I cannot wait to see where it goes. Let's shift gears. Let's talk a little bit about you. The primary reason that we're talking here is that you've been selected as, a finalist on being one of the best CPOs in the world. So we want to kind of get under the covers and understand what what makes a great chief product officer. So if you were to, think about yourself in the third party, but what is your CPO superpower? What makes you successful? And feel free to include, how not only what makes you successful today, but what got you here.
It's a good question. Hard to be completely dispassionate about yourself, but if I were to say the thing that I bring to the table, even today, it's simplifying and finding bold solutions. And even today, I've been at Turo now for 11 years. So from the time when it was a small startup of 20 people, now we're 1,000 plus people. And I feel like every 2 years, the role of VP of product or CPO, it changes because there's always something different. But that need for simplicity and boldness in trying to find solutions is persistent. And I think it's something that clarity of thought that has helped me finding that one fact that's more important than all the other facts. And an example that's even recently been the case is Turo recently within our marketplace. Marketplaces have different models of booking, and there's a concept called instant book, which in the marketplace means when the guest requests to have a booking, it automatically gets booked. Of course, there's some marketplaces. Um, Frequently, I think caregivers are like this, where you request and then you set up an interview, or there's more to do. And sometimes that makes sense for us in order to provide retail convenience to guests. We believe that instant book, where a guest clicks and buys, is the right approach. And there's a lot of it's not a simple it's a simple solution, but there's a lot of complexity behind it to bring our hosts along with us on this journey to bring retail convenience to our guests. And this simple fact that one step is better than two steps or three steps is a simple reality that illustrates, I think, something that I'm able to bring to Turo. And as a product leader, is just that simple and bold thinking that can lead to something that's more than optimization, but a step change in terms of customer value or business value.
That's interesting. What resonates with me especially is the cost of simplicity. It's hard. It's hard to be simple, and the bold comes from a little bit of a layered genius. Do you have one like good example where you really exemplifies that, other than obviously the booking simplicity?
Yeah, the instant book was an important one, and it was we recently had a meeting where we discuss it. It was really a decade in the making. When I joined Turo, which was originally branded as Relay Rides, it was actually a three-step process. You would request the trip, and then the host would agree, and then you would book it. This allowed you to have non-exclusive requests. So this evolved over a long period of time, but it really exemplifies that journey and the persistence, and as you said, the cost of simplicity and working through that. Another example that I think would be helpful to illustrate would be what we call duration discounts. Our hosts have different settings to make sure that the trips that they get are the trips that they want. Okay.
So this was great, Tom. I would love a little more color around your example that you gave on that simplicity of booking.
Sure. It is like a lot of things. It was an overnight success, a decade in the making. when I joined Turo, which was actually at that time Really Rides, it was actually a 3-step process to book a vehicle. The guest would request the vehicle non-exclusively, so you could request multiple vehicles at once. Hosts would agree, yes, you can have my vehicle, and then guests would book. It was a bit idiosyncratic. So a long time ago, we changed to a 2-step booking process, which is more conventional, which is I want to rent, and then the host agrees, and then it is booked. And over time, we've done a lot to improve the quality of our hosts, and develop settings that makes hosts comfortable that they can accept any booking. And that has evolved over time. And we imagined for ourselves, there's a popular design question, how might we? How might we provide retail convenience for our guests where a host can accept any trip? And that led us to reimagine delivery settings and work with our hosts to understand how we can uh, create a dynamic within the marketplace where it's healthy and they can accept, set it and forget it, so that any trip they get, they're fine to service. And there are a lot of settings about lead time, about hours of operations at different locations. One responsibility with simplicity that I feel as a product leader is you have to simplify, but you cannot oversimplify. If you oversimplify, you're not really taking responsibility for the complexity of a situation. It's complex to provide something simple, but on the end of that rainbow is something gold. And so we didn't oversimplify. We worked the problem with our hosts, and we co-invent with them, and we developed the settings that we need so that we could turn the page, which we did in March of this year.
Well, congratulations on that. And I love that story about simplicity. I would love to know what motivates you and a little bit of context. We all have our sources of passion and motivation. For some it's people. I know for me in my career, I was always passionate about mobile. I don't know what it was about the mobile phone, this idea of being able to access computing anywhere, anytime was just such a deeply intrinsic motivation that I would literally, yeah, don't tell my former employees, but I probably would have worked for free if because I loved it so much. So I guess what motivates you to do your best work.
Well, some of what you said resonates with me as well. I think the two things that motivate me is one is our hosts. I mentioned sort of co-inventing with them, but they give us a real kick in the pants. Me personally, we have a host summit now. It used to be quite a small thing, but now it's quite a big thing. And the host summit is some of our best entrepreneurial hosts. And this year it was in Austin, or this past fall, it was in Austin, Texas. And, it's interesting, for our employees, including our product people and myself, like we get paid every 2 weeks, right? Like everyone. But our hosts only get paid when they use our product, and they use our product to try to make a living. And so when they come and talk about product, it comes completely out of the ivory tower, and any sort of whiff of self-satisfaction is completely punctured when they come up to you with the app and be like, this doesn't work, this is what you need to fix, and this is why. And then when you explain it to them, oh, this is our vision, or this is what we think, they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, this is, they're they really ground us. And it is both a kick in the pants as well as inspirational, because you're like, people are really using this, and they're trying to, they're relying on us. And that reliance makes me motivated to be like, we got to make this right. They're depending on us. So that's one side of it, and I guess a little bit of a common one that customers. The second one, which is more of a, I guess, related to what you were saying about mobile, is more of just that persistent vibe of just being on a team that's cooking, like that's working together, engineers, designers, and product managers working together to do something worthwhile,
Yeah.
and you never grow out of that. A whiteboard, 8 engineers, a designer, a great engineering leader, a scrum, data resources, and, customer research. Put it all in a blender and let's work on something. I know sports analogies are, they're so cliche. But I saw an interview which resonated with me from a college player who, college basketball player, was good, but probably not going to the pros, but had a great college career. And in an interview at the end, they go, "How do you feel about the end of your career as a college player? What are you going to miss the most?" And he took a long time to answer. And then he finally said, "Well, what I'm going to miss the most are the team dinners."
Oh.
And just that idea of like a team who's working together on something. And that's very motivating for me.
There's so much truth to that. What strikes me as you were like you lit up when you started talking about that team dynamic, which really does tell me that it taps into your passion. You've been in this role through a lot of change and through a lot of years. How do you keep that fresh and how do you keep that motivation alive?
Um, I'll be honest, it's not a big challenge. At least for me, because it's natural when things are harmonious in a certain way. I mean, there's always a new a new level. Like there's always new challenges. It's frustrating. But if you're in an environment where you're like, oh, do you trust and respect your partner and the chief technology officer? Does your boss respect you and what you bring to the table, and do you respect them and the direction that they're providing you? And do you love your team, and do you respect the team, and do you think you have great colleagues you love working with? If that's the case, and you're doing well from an economic standpoint, you have traction, and you think you're shipping a good product. I mean, if you work in product long enough, you're like, it's pretty good. I once talked with someone who was like a luminary. They had been a product person, then they moved on to be a venture capitalist. And I was telling them, I was like, well, what's next for me? And they said, well, they asked me some of those things. They go, how's your, relationship with this person? How's the product coming? Do you have more to do? Meaning, are you sort of at a dead end of innovation? I was like, no, we're doing good. He goes, those are the best times of your life. He's like, hang on to that.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Oh, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I would love to know what we as we go through our journey as product leaders, we collect um, best practices and what I've noticed with some of the better chief product officers like yourself is that you guys end up all having a certain favorite best practice that has come to define you. I
Mm.
would love for you to share one or even two, but at least one best product practice that contributes to both you and your team's success.
Sure. I mean, one thing, I mean, working, well, I have a great, I have great product leaders who I work with, who, they're always challenging me and trying to extract, my point of view as I try to extract from them, and we try to blend them together. But one thing we've done, it is an operational thing, but it actually there's a lot of thought behind it, behind the practice, which is memorializing what it means to be a good product manager at different levels. I mean, it's a classic thing. What do we expect out of an associate product manager, a senior product manager, a principal product manager, group product manager? And then not only in terms of a job description, but in terms of what skills we expect. And so the skills that we and you know um, aspects of the product manager that we've identified that we believe are critical are communications, interpersonal skills, leadership, organizational skills, judgment, and expertise. Those are the 6 ones. I'm sure there are lots of different ways to slice it and cut it, but those are the ones that we've identified that good product managers are great communicators, they have exceptional interpersonal skills, they're leaders, they're extremely well organized, you can trust their judgment, and they know what they're talking about. And if you have all those things, at each level, there's a new, level that you need to reach. But if you have all those things and you nurture and develop them, you continue to evolve. And that's a practice I feel um, really proud of because it gives our product leaders, and I consider all the product managers leaders, um, uh, clarity where they are and where they need to go. And it makes growing the product culture scalable. And so very proud of that practice. Again, not an unusual practice, but one that I think has memorialized what it will take to scale Turo's product organization and to define what we mean by excellence.
So, when you look at those 6 skills,
Yep.
how do you apply them in a way that's repeatable? In other words,
Mm.
as an example, do you apply them in the annual review process? Do you apply them in the um, interviewing process when you're hiring? I would love a little more color on how you actually apply that best practice to make it repeatable and your secret sauce.
Absolutely on the hiring practice at any level, because we need to level set.
Right.
And, when you describe the tasks that someone does, oh, they need to lead a team, they need to present to stakeholders, what have you. It can devolve in terms of what people expect. But by anchoring it on this, when people want to champion a candidate or when they have a concern, we ask them to channel it through this prism. So that's one way we use it. I think the other tangible way we use it, which is very important, is people want to advance in their careers. I think this is one of the most tangible thing. Okay, you've come, and then people want to know, how do I move to the next level and get a promotion? And I think the idea of don't worry about that, just work hard and you'll do better is not satisfying. And it can lead to discord. So I think providing it as a structured way to discuss career advancement is extremely important. Those are two examples where we've operationalized it quite well. And to your point about reviews, there is an overlap between a review and someone's desire to get promoted. So
Yeah.
I see them as being related.
Got it. Got it. I love that. Sometimes I feel when I look at my experience and my history of, when I was a product leader, that some of the more defining moments and the probably the biggest lessons learned or, moments where I learned the most were when things didn't go great.
Mm, yes.
So I would love I would love a story, and a defining story where maybe you got something wrong in your career, and what did you do about it? How did it change you? And how did you make lemonade out of lemons?
Two I could think of. The first I mentioned, I've been at Turo Relay Rides for quite a while. One of the first initiatives I championed, one we have to be in a time machine a little bit and go back 11 years. Social was so huge as a platform. The idea of leveraging Facebook and Facebook login has recently been introduced. And one of the first things I championed was something that we dubbed riding social. We were very supply constrained, meaning we didn't have enough cars on Turo. And so the idea would be that you would search on Turo for a car nearby. And if you didn't find a vehicle, right, you would get a Facebook prompt that would say, hey, why don't you ask your friends if you could rent their car and post it list the vehicle on Turo. So I championed this. It wasn't that controversial because everyone thought Facebook was, transformative as it was. And we got zero new cars because of this approach. And we built it. It was a bit humiliating, and it was early on, so I'd recently come. And I think two lessons from that. One is sometimes you just need to take the L and move on. And you need to model that behavior for other people to create psychological comfort. Because when we talk about being bold, it's like, yeah, easy for you to say, you're the CPO, but if I'm bold and there's egg on my face, there are going to be consequences. But modeling that behavior and being like, no, I mean, of course, we don't try to fail, but we do try to be bold. And it's okay to just be like, we learned something. If you don't learn anything, that's a huge problem. And I think what we learned in terms of supply, and the thing we've learned over time, is you need to have high intent for people who want to rent their cars out. And just blasting it on social was just not the right bent. We need to focus on entrepreneurs. And that wasn't the right way to do it. So I think those are two things I learned: how to model failure and model being bold and then just moving on. And then the second thing was just we learned something about the quality of supply we need to build. Second big mistake I want to illustrate, which was a bit infamous in Turo history, is also ironically about supply quality. We when you're early stages, like Relay Rides Turo is, you're trying to raise money and you hold on to vanity metrics a bit. And one of the vanity metrics was how many cars are on Turo. And that metric actually wasn't that important. What was really important is how many are generating trips and how many trips are they generating. So we developed a heuristic which would automatically cull what we would call zombie supply. Zombie supply meaning they were there, but they didn't really, they're not generating trips and experiences for our guests. So we developed a heuristic for removing a relatively small, modest percentage of our hosts. But we ran the simulation wrong, and we ended up removing about 40% of our hosts.
Oh, no.
Right? And after we did it, our CTO at the time was like, the simulation was a mistake. He's like, but the logic is still valid. These hosts are not real, meaning they're not really engaged in the platform. So we went to the CEO and we told him, listen, I know we simulated to be this, but we actually removed this. And this goes back to, choose your bosses wisely. He was very wise, Solomon-like in his response. He said, okay, I'll give you to the end of the week to see how it affects the service. But if we start to diminish in revenue, we're going to have to revert. Um, that week was one of our biggest revenue weeks because that zombie supply was actually holding back guests. Good requests were going to bad hosts. And so there were a lot of lessons we learned from that in terms of host quality and raising the bar, in terms of trusting one another, and in terms of obviously trying to do the regressions right. You don't, it's not like you aim to make mistakes, but to your point, I do think you can learn a lot from them.
Yeah, those are two really great stories that I think everybody can relate to. And half the battle is how you navigate the mistake. I really resonate with this notion of authenticity. It takes a lot of guts, but I think it's necessary guts to admit when you're wrong and to minimize the mistake. Right? We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
So I love that. Uh, I can't believe how quickly the time is going. So I only have two more questions for you. The
Okay.
first is, I know you share this passion based on the one of your earlier comments about kind of what motivates you, but I often find that meeting with customers, like through my career journey, was always so inspirational. And when I was feeling a little uninspired, I would go out in the field and say, sign me up, help me be re-inspired by our customers. And I have a lot of tales, and I'm sure you do too. So I guess I would love to know any stories you might have, or specifically, what was the best customer meeting you ever had? What did it look like? How did it feel?
Yeah.
Why was it great?
Yes, I'll tell you one of the seminal ones. It's actually the flip side of a story I told earlier. So now, when we have our host summit, I mentioned, which was in Austin, Texas, it's hundreds and hundreds of hosts who are eager to talk to us about all the features they want. And that's because Turo is, it's bigger now. We have a lot more customers and we're humming along. But early on, that was not always the case. We didn't always have the supply liquidity that we needed. So in one of our very earliest, I wouldn't even call it host summits, we called them community events. So we had a community event in Oregon, um, and only a few people showed up. I think there were probably 10 or 15 people who showed up. And one was this nice woman, and I was just chatting with her, and I said, "Well, tell me your story." She was a host, and she said, "Well, my story is not very interesting, so you probably want to go talk to other people." I said, "Well, just tell me what you do." She's like, "Well, I'm mainly here for the food, like we had free food." And she said, "But I'm a waitress and a single mom who live. I work a few blocks from here, and I was having trouble making ends meet to make my car payment. And so I put my car on, and now it's like I'm able to make my car payment a lot more easily." And I was like, "That's a great story." I mean, the entrepreneurial hosts were great, but it was just such a simple story of I was like, yeah, 1.5 billion cars to better use. It's real, she's trying to make ends meet. She's a single mom. Great. I just thought it was such a low key moment, but a really inspirational one.
I love that. That is a good story. I I I heard a similar story the other day about somebody who wasn't able to make their house payments. So it's a very similar story where they went on the Airbnb. That really kind of puts the mission into a whole new light of what you do. So congrats for that. All right, my last question is: I cannot walk away from a conversation with a chief product officer without at least asking you about AI, and specifically because this has been obviously a huge year for everybody in product, actually everybody in business, but everybody specifically in product. I would love your perspective on how you believe AI will change the role of product management in the short term, like here and now, and then maybe your thoughts on what it might look like 3 years from now.
Uh, yeah, like you alluded to, I believe like mobile or even the web browser. And I'm not just saying that, I believe it. The generative AI and the AI wave that's crashing through society and business. It's like I heard it described in 1.0, like Internet 1.0 is like a Bengali typhoon, that the internet was going to change things. And I think AI is similar. It's going to wash over everything we do in the sort of product work that we do, like mobile did, like the web browser did. And so that can be exhilarating, but it can also be both paralyzing and disorienting for the product leaders. Um, but I think overall it will be a positive thing for product management. For product management, I think it's both a resource and a platform. I think it's a great resource, almost to call it a thought partner for product leaders. You know, it's a great tool for making better decisions. If a PM's role is the pace and quality of decisions, Lord knows, um, without any markup, you can say that you can use Chat GPT to improve as a resource for improving your decision making. And of course, it's a platform for generating innovations on behalf of customers. So, the first things product managers, in my opinion, need to do is have familiarity. You just have to be familiar with what's happening. I know, again, given the scope of the change, you might say, yeah, of course, but there's a lot of nuance to that familiarity. It's moving quite quickly, but I think it's really important for product leaders to model that familiarity by using generative AI in all sorts of things, whether it's in meeting notes or other things. And then in the first year for Turo and for others, I think many people are thinking it's an opportunity to reduce costs. I think it's pretty clear that support costs, as an example, are a great opportunity to utilize this new platform to serve customers better and concurrently reduce costs. Listen, you can you can hide the 1-800 number or something if you want less support costs, but that's not an authentic way of serving customers. I think generative AI offers both that opportunity to provide answers that customers need, the right answers at the right time, the right information, as well as saving costs. It just is a starting point. Over the next 3 years, I think there are going to be, you know, many pockets where it helps Turo and other product-led organizations to not only reduce costs, but improve marketing, improve, the 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 demand side of the business. There's just so much. I mean, I think it also can be an interface as a platform,
Mhm.
which is, I think, unique into itself. And I know in China it's very advanced. So a lot to do, but we need to stay grounded in terms of familiarity, finding an authentic problem, even if it's a small problem,
Yep.
and solving that problem, because that's how you want to start your AI journey, not with a press release that is hollow in terms of customer value. I'd rather just have a very small targeted thing that you do for customers that customers like and build from there than to have a grandiose press release, but it's like chewing gum, you chew it for a little bit and then you throw it out because it's not really, doesn't taste good anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, either way you look at it, we're definitely on a learning journey, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And all the problems don't have to be big. But the
Yeah.
key is that we need to be focused on problem solving, right? Both
Yes.
internally and for our customers.
I believe that is the way to keep us grounded. We don't need to be overly analytical. We can still be simple or bold, but we need to start with authentic customer problems and just learn by doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, on that note, I just want to thank you, Tom. Had so much fun chatting with you today and really, really appreciate your time.
Likewise.
Again, congratulations. Best of luck.
Thank you.
This is SC Moadi again, founder and chair of Products That Count. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite platform, including Spotify and Apple. And please check out our other resources at productsthatcount.org. They're designed to accelerate your product career and make product the most important function in business. Until soon.